1, 2, 3, let's go.
Wednesday afternoon, hoping you will tune into our show.
Feel pressured about, which don't apply to men, so it does work both ways. But to me, the thing is communication. Get any problems out in the open and hopefully solve those problems and communicate. As a good relationship, people should make sure that they keep in touch with each other and know what they're thinking and actually do some different things. I think a mistake is if people expect to do everything together, to spend all their time together. And that's kind of one of those things that is implied when you meet someone, you love them and you want to spend all your time together, which is probably the worst thing a couple could do, because you just ultimately get fed up and bored. So that sounds a bit harsh, but in relationships, that's probably the reality of it, isn't it?
I don't know.
Things need to be refreshed.
I don't know. There are certain ones in relationship that, want to spend time with their spouse. There's nothing wrong with that. To spend most of their time with their spouse. They would tend to disagree with that, bro. They would be looking at it and thinking, well, what's wrong with me spending time all the time, with a certain somebody. So I suppose there's no set rules to, how a relationship should be, is it?
No, there are some sort of expectations which maybe we all feel sometimes, but yeah, again, it's easy, isn't it? When I was married for quite a few years, so my comments perhaps are based on my own experience of life in that regard, and I suppose that's true of all of us. We talk about things. Some have a lot more experience of something than others. Doesn't mean they're right. All we can talk about is the experience for ourselves. But yeah, I've said before, lines I put in some of my songs, and I'm proud of my songs. But again, a song, I think I mentioned it recently when I said two become one, and I said actually that's a load of rubbish, even though I put it in the song. And I think it might even be the same song where I said, and it's a song called Lady, and though I say it myself, it's a nice song, one of my favourites of mine. And I think I put in there, I want to spend each moment with you, for together we are one where we used to be two. Okay, and I think that's the kind of the romantic notion, isn't it? I want to spend all of my time with you, but to me that would be a big mistake in a relationship, to constantly be in each other's company. The more so for those couples that actually work together. I mean, I remember a few years ago, my dentist, a very good chap, and his wife was the receptionist. Now, when I moved house, I changed dentists, but I'm not saying that didn't work for them. It possibly did. But when you're actually effectively with a partner, all through the day when you're working and then you go home, you might say, well, what have we got to talk about in terms of what we've done that day? So I wouldn't advocate that for anybody. But again, as we've said, it's up to individuals, isn't it, to do what they feel is best for them.
Absolutely. Right. Well, we'll leave it at that then. Move on.
Leave it at that. Yeah.
Move on to today's topic. Right. So memory. I don't think I've got any recollection. I don't have any recollection of.
You've got no recollection. Yeah. Well, it's just, again, it's a massive subject, memory.
Right.
As all things are that relate in any way to this thing in our heads we call the brain, this piece of 3 pound in weight grey matter, which is
The leader of our gang will make the show go with a bang and fund the aim of everything cost us, and fund the aim of everything cost us.
just, again, it's a massive subject, memory.
Right.
as all things are that relate in any way to this thing in our heads we call the brain, this piece of 3 pound in weight grey matter, which is the most incredible thing. But memory is part of that, and it's obviously a very important memory, because without it, then everything, every day, everything would be surprising to us, as surprising as it is to a newborn infant, newborn baby. If we didn't have memory, you know, we wake up and we know who we hope we know who we are, where we are, why we are, and all the rest of it. That's what our memory. We don't even think about it being memory, do we? It just sort of happens, and it's a very intriguing part of our brain. And in fact, there are some people, as you probably know, who over time they say, well, I think there's a creator, there's some person who's playing a computer game with us. This actually was in the press fairly recently again, right. And that today is the first day ever of this existence of this game, and the creator, whoever or whatever that is, has implanted a memory into every one of the 8 billion souls, humans on this planet, so that when we got up this morning, this first day of existence of this game, we think we've been here quite a long time. We know who we are, we remember things and all the rest of it. But there are those who believe that all that stuff could be implanted, and we know we talk with our computers, don't we, about memory and data stuff that is there. So memory is quite an interesting thing. Most people, apparently, research shows, if you ask them, do they have a good memory? They will say, very often they will say, well, not really. No, I tend to forget things. I'm not very good at birthdays and so on. But if you ask most people about, you know, their intelligence, their IQ, or their sense of humor, then understandably, they're not so willing to say, well, yeah, I'm not very intelligent. I'm not very bright. And no, I don't have much of a sense of humor. We're very reluctant to sort of say anything along those lines, but maybe many of us would be prepared to actually say, yeah, I don't have a very good memory. I think in my case, actually, I've always thought I do have quite a good memory. You know, I've got a cousin who sometimes says to me, he'll say, oh God, you can remember things from years ago, you know, people's birth dates or whatever. And he says, you've got a very good memory. And I think I do tend to have a pretty good memory. Is memory efficient? Is our memory efficient? Well, I think it probably is. It's a difficult question. But if somebody asked you, Cuz, is the word, what word? Is the word infamy in the English language?
I would say yes.
Yeah. And it would actually take you about a second or less to come up with that, because your memory tells you that word, one out of, I don't know how many words there are in the English language, hundreds of thousands, a couple of million, I don't know. But your memory instantly told you, which is quite impressive. I don't mean just because you said it, but impressive for you, but I don't mean that. But it's impressive that you knew that word was there. But if I said to you, is there such a word as mantiness? What would you say?
I would say no.
Yeah. And again, yes, I mean, I just made that word up, mantiness, whatever it means, doesn't mean anything. Again, your knowledge of what isn't a word came straight away to the fore. So memory is an incredible thing, and it's operating with us all the time, even though we're not so much conscious of that. The opposite, I suppose, is of memory, if that's the word, is forgetfulness. And of course, being forgetful can cause embarrassment. There's probably very few people who haven't forgotten a wedding anniversary at some stage, a birthday, a name. It's quite awkward sometimes. Maybe most of us have remember a situation where we've met somebody once and then we bump into them in a shop or somewhere and they say, hello, Trevor, how you doing? And you so want to say, oh, hi, whatever the name might, and you forget the name because you only really had a cursory mention of it when you met them. So that can be
fun the aim of everything cast us, and fun the